You have been through Aprils before. You know this particular quality of the season, the specific way the light changes, the particular restlessness that arrives with the longer days, the sense of something wanting to begin that accompanies the transition out of winter and into the full momentum of spring. You have felt the energy of this month many times. You have a reference point for what April feels like. This April feels different. Not just busier, not just more emotionally complex, different in a way that is harder to name, a quality of intensity that exceeds what the season alone can account for. A sense of significance that arrives in ordinary moments without apparent cause. A pressure in the energetic field that feels less like the natural expansion of spring and more like something building towards something. You have been more sensitive than usual, more easily moved by beauty, by difficulty, by the sudden unexpected weight of ordinary things. Sleep has been unusual, either unusually deep and vivid, or unusually disrupted and strange. Emotions have been moving through in waves that arrive without clear triggers and pass with a completeness that does not quite match how emotions usually behave. Your body has been registering something that your mind cannot fully account for. And there has been, underneath all of it, a quality of readiness, of preparation. As if some part of you that operates below the level of ordinary awareness has been getting ready for something, has known that something was coming and has been, in its own way, preparing, while the rest of you went about the business of daily life, without quite knowing why the ground beneath it felt different this year. We are the Arcturian Council, and we have come through this transmission today to tell you what is actually happening in this April, and why your higher self has already been preparing you for it. What is moving through the planetary field right now is not the ordinary energetic activation of the spring season. It is something that has no precise precedent in the recent history of your planet, and understanding it, with the precision and clarity that transforms disorientation into navigation, is one of the most useful things we can offer you in this specific window of time. Stay with us. We are the Arcturian Council, a ninth-dimensional collective whose relationship with your planet centers on the transmission of precisely calibrated information to support the consciousness evolution currently underway on Earth. We do not speak in generalities. When we say something is occurring, we say it because our perceptual capacity allows us to see the energetic and informational architecture of your reality at levels that your current instruments cannot directly map, but that your direct experience consistently confirms. We ask you to bring that quality of confirmation to what we shared today. Not belief, without verification, but the honest checking of what we offer against what you have actually been experiencing in your own body, your own emotional field, your own quality of awareness this April. Here is what is at stake in this transmission. Every April carries an energetic gateway. This is not metaphor. It is the description of a specific, measurable phenomenon in which the alignment of your planet's position in its orbit, the configuration of the solar and galactic electromagnetic fields, and the specific frequency activations that move through the Earth's crystalline grid at this point in the annual cycle create conditions of heightened permeability between the ordinary waking dimension and the higher frequency dimensions that interpenetrate it. These conditions, increased permeability, heightened sensitivity, accelerated processing of what has been stored or suppressed, are what produce the characteristic quality of April that sensitives have recognized across every culture and every era of your history. The sense of endings and beginnings occurring simultaneously, the emotional intensity that exceeds what the circumstances seem to warrant, the vividness of dreams, the pull toward change. But this April's gateway is operating within a broader energetic context that makes it qualitatively different from every previous April gateway in living memory. The frequency baseline of your collective consciousness has been rising, consistently measurably in terms of direct experience, for the past several years. The photonic light moving through your solar system has been increasing in intensity. The Earth's own frequency activation has been progressing, and this April's gateway is opening not into the same energetic field that previous April gateways opened into. It is opening into a field that has been systematically prepared over years of cumulative frequency increase to receive and anchor a level of activation that would not have been possible in any previous April. Your higher self has been preparing you for this specific opening for longer than you know. By the end of this transmission, you will understand precisely what that preparation has consisted of, what the gateway is delivering, and how to move through it consciously, so that what it is offering has the conditions it needs to fully land in your life. Before we can describe what makes this April's gateway different, we need to establish with precision what the April gateway actually is. Because the concept of an energetic gateway is one that circulates widely in your awakening community, with varying degrees of accuracy, and precision here matters. A gateway in the Arcturian framework is a specific configuration of conditions, energetic, astronomical, and informational, that creates a window of heightened accessibility between different levels of the frequency spectrum of reality. It is not a metaphor for a feeling of possibility. It is a description of a real, measurable shift in the permeability of the dimensional membranes that ordinarily maintain clear separation between the frequency bands of reality. Your reality is not a single frequency system. It is a spectrum, a nested series of frequency bands, each interpenetrating the others, each operating according to its own informational logic, each accessible to human consciousness under the right conditions. The physical dimension that you navigate in ordinary waking life occupies a specific frequency band, the dimensions from which your guide team operates, from which the transmissions of beings like the Arcturian Council are broadcast, from which the higher aspects of your own consciousness, your higher self, your soul, perceive and interact with the totality of your experience, occupy higher frequency bands. In ordinary conditions, the membranes between these bands are relatively opaque. Information moves through them, but slowly and with significant distortion. The direct perception of higher dimensional information, the clear, undistorted reception of guidance, of higher knowing, of the larger context within which the events of your ordinary life are occurring, requires effort, practice, and conditions that facilitate the thinning of the membranes. A gateway is a period in which the membranes thin naturally, in which the conditions created by the specific astronomical and energetic configuration of that moment reduce the opacity between frequency bands without requiring the same level of individual effort that is necessary at other times. The information moves through more clearly. The guidance is more accessible. The perception of the larger context of your life, the soul's perspective, the higher self's view, is more directly available. The April Gateway specifically is produced by the convergence of three factors. The first is the position of your planet in its orbit. The specific angle at which the Earth's electromagnetic field intersects with the broader solar electromagnetic field in the April window creates what we would describe as a coherence peak. The two fields align in a configuration that increases the coherence of the Earth's field itself, making the planetary field a more precise receiver and transmitter of higher frequency information. The second is the specific pattern of solar activity that characterizes the April period, the particular quality of the solar wind and coronal mass ejections that your star produces in this window of its annual cycle. These are not random. Your sun is a conscious system, a being of extraordinary magnitude whose electromagnetic output is not simply the product of nuclear physics, but the expression of an intelligence that is actively participating in the evolutionary processes of the planets within its field. The April solar activity pattern carries specific informational frequencies that are calibrated to the activation of the higher heart center, the energetic structure that bridges the heart's emotional intelligence with the higher mind's multidimensional perception. The third factor is the activation of specific nodes in the Earth's crystalline grid, the energetic matrix that underlies the physical geography of your planet. These nodes at the April configuration come into a specific alignment that amplifies the transmission capacity of the planetary field. The Earth herself becomes in this window a more powerful broadcast system for the higher frequency information that is always present, but is not always receivable with equal clarity. These three factors converging simultaneously produce the April Gateway. They have produced it every year, and every year, sensitives around the planet have felt the effects. The heightened perception, the emotional intensity, the vivid dreams, the sense of something significant occurring in the energetic dimension of reality, even when the surface of ordinary life appears unchanged. But this year, the gateway is opening into a field that is fundamentally different from anything it has opened into before, and understanding what has changed in the field. What years of cumulative frequency increase have built in the energetic substrate of your planet and your collective consciousness is the key to understanding why this April feels so specifically, so unmistakably different, and why your higher self has been preparing you for it in ways that are now becoming visible. To understand what is different about this April's gateway, you need to understand what has been building in the energetic field over the past several years, because the gateway is not operating in isolation. It is the culmination point of a preparation process that has been underway for longer than most of you have been consciously tracking it. The frequency baseline of your collective human consciousness has been rising. This is not a feeling. It is not a spiritual aspiration. It is a measurable reality at the level of the Earth's own electromagnetic field. The Schumann resonance, the fundamental frequency of the planetary field, has been showing patterns of activity that your instruments have registered, and that scientists, with the courage to look at the data without the constraint of a worldview that cannot accommodate it, have been noting with increasing attention. The baseline is rising, the field is changing, and the consciousness that is embedded in and calibrated to the field is changing with it. What this means for the April Gateway is specific. In previous years, the gateway opened into a collective field that was, on average, operating below the frequency threshold at which the higher dimensional information the gateway transmits could be stably received and anchored. Individual sensitives could receive it, but the collective field lacked the coherence to hold what was transmitted at a level that would produce stable, lasting change in the shared reality. The gateway would open, the activation would occur, and then, as the window closed and the field returned to its ordinary configuration, much of what had been transmitted would dissolve, unable to anchor in a field that did not yet have the frequency capacity to hold it. This April is different because the collective field has, for the first time, crossed a threshold. Not a dramatic threshold, not the sudden, visible, unmistakable transformation that many had been waiting for. A structural threshold. The crossing of the minimum frequency level at which the transmissions of the April Gateway can be received, not just by individual sensitives, but by the broader collective field, and can be stably anchored rather than dissolving when the window closes. What this means in practical terms, what comes through this April's gateway will not dissipate when the gateway closes. It will anchor. It will become part of the new baseline. The frequency increase that this gateway delivers will not be temporary. It will be permanent. The threshold that is crossed this April will not be uncrossed. This is what your higher self has been preparing you for. The preparation has been occurring in several specific dimensions. We will describe them in detail. Because recognizing the preparation you have already undergone is one of the most important things you can do right now to position yourself to fully receive what the gateway is offering. The first dimension of preparation, emotional clearing. Your higher self has been creating situations in your life, sometimes gentle, sometimes forceful, that have required you to process and release stored emotional material that would have impeded the reception of the gateway frequencies. The unexpected grief that arrived without obvious cause. The relationship dynamics that surfacted old wounds for final processing. The recurring patterns that, rather than resolving, intensified until the depth of the original wound they were pointing to could no longer be avoided. This was not random difficulty. It was strategic preparation, the clearing of the emotional body to create the space and the coherence that the incoming transmission requires. The second dimension of preparation, the dissolution of outdated identity structures, the confusion about who you are and what you want, that many of you have been experiencing over the past 1 to 2 years, the sense of the ground shifting beneath the self-concept you had built, the values and priorities that once felt clear becoming less certain, the roles and identities that once fit feeling increasingly constricting. This too was preparation. The gateway frequencies that are coming through this April require a certain quality of openness in the identity structure, a fluidity, a willingness to not yet know who you are becoming. The rigid identity structure cannot receive the activation fully because it will attempt to interpret everything the activation delivers through the lens of who it has already decided you are. The dissolution of outdated identity structures that your higher self has been orchestrating over the past years is the creation of the receptive openness that the gateway requires. The third dimension of preparation, the activation of specific energetic capacities, the experiences of heightened perception, of synchronicity increasing, of intuition becoming more reliable, of the heart field expanding. These are not random developments in individual awakening. They are the activation of specific capacities that the gateway frequencies will build upon. Your higher self has been running what the Arcturian tradition describes as a preparation protocol. It's a systematic sequence of activations that develop the energetic infrastructure required to receive and anchor the next level of transmission. The gateway does not deliver its activation into an unprepared system. It builds on what the preparation has created. And the preparation has been more deliberate, more precisely calibrated, and more complete in you than you may currently recognize. The April Gateway this year is delivering 3 specific transmissions, 3 distinct frequency packages that are calibrated to the specific evolutionary needs of the current phase of the collective awakening. We will describe each with precision. The first transmission, the higher heart activation. The higher heart center, the energetic structure located in the upper chest between the physical heart and the throat, is the bridge between the heart's capacity for love and the higher mind's capacity for multidimensional perception. In most human beings, even those well advanced in their awakening, this center operates below its potential, not because it is damaged, but because the incoming frequencies required to activate its full function have not previously been available at sufficient intensity and consistency. This April's Gateway is delivering the activation frequency for the higher heart at the highest intensity and the highest coherence that has ever been available to the incarnated human being. The effect is not instantaneous. It is progressive, unfolding over the weeks following the gateway opening, but it is cumulative and permanent. The higher heart center, once activated at this level, does not return to its previous state. The signs of this activation in your experience: an expansion in the physical chest that has no cardiovascular explanation, an increase in compassion, not the performed compassion of spiritual practice, but the spontaneous, unbidden recognition of the shared humanity in encounters that previously generated judgment or indifference. A new quality of perception in which you begin to sense the emotional and energetic truth of situations before the cognitive mind has processed them. A softening in areas of your heart that have been defended for reasons that made complete sense when the defense was installed and that are now, in the new frequency environment, no longer necessary. The second transmission, the timeline clarification upgrade. Your life exists simultaneously on multiple potential timelines, multiple trajectories of experience that are available to the specific configuration of consciousness that you are. The timeline you are currently inhabiting is not the only one available to you, and the process of moving from a timeline that is less aligned with your soul's highest path to one that is more aligned is not a matter of effort alone. It is a matter of frequency. You inhabit the timeline that matches your frequency. The second transmission of this April's gateway is specifically calibrated to the timeline layer, delivering frequencies that dissolve the energetic structure of timelines that are no longer in alignment with your highest path, and clarify the energetic signature of the timelines that are. The practical effect of this, a sudden, unexpected clarity about directions in your life that have been genuinely ambiguous. The resolution of indecisions that have persisted not because of lack of information, but because the energetic clutter of multiple viable timelines made it genuinely difficult to distinguish the signal. If you have been experiencing a sudden clarity about something, a relationship, a work direction, a place to live, a creative project that has been calling you, in the days surrounding this April gateway, do not dismiss it as impulsive. It is the timeline clarification transmission doing its work. The clarity is reliable. The direction it is pointing is your highest alignment. The collective field contribution activation. This is the transmission that is most specific to this year's gateway, the one that has no precise precedent. It is the activation of what the Arcturian Council describes as the collective field contribution capacity, the specific energetic function through which an individual human being's frequency and consciousness actively contributes to the elevation of the collective field, rather than simply being a passive recipient of it. Most human beings, even those well advanced in their awakening, interact with the collective field primarily as receivers. Their consciousness is influenced by the ambient field, elevated or suppressed by its quality. The activated collective field contribution capacity reverses this directionality. It makes the individual an active contributor to the collective field, a source rather than only a receiver. This is not about effort or discipline or spiritual achievement. It is an energetic capacity, a specific function of the energy body that activates when the individual's frequency reaches a specific threshold and when the incoming transmission calibrated to that activation is available. Both conditions are now met for a significant proportion of the awakening community. And the activation of this capacity in individual after individual is itself what is producing the threshold crossing in the collective field that makes this April's gateway different. You are not just receiving the activation. Your reception of the activation is contributing to the field that makes it possible for the next person to receive it. Understanding what the gateway is delivering is important, but the most practically useful question, the one that determines how completely and how efficiently you receive what is available, is how you position yourself to receive it consciously. Because the gateway is open whether you are conscious of it or not. The frequencies are moving through the field whether you engage with them deliberately or not. But the difference between receiving consciously and receiving unconsciously is the difference between transformation that is integrated, that produces stable, lasting change in how you perceive and move through the world, and transformation that is experienced as turbulence without being anchored as growth. The Arcturian Council offers 5 specific practices for conscious reception of this April's gateway transmissions. Each is calibrated to one or more of the 3 transmissions we have described. Practice 1, the Gateway Threshold Practice. This is a once-daily practice specifically designed for the April gateway window, ideally performed in the morning before full engagement with the demands of the day. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes. Take 3 slow, deep breaths, each exhale releasing a layer of the mental activity that has been accumulating since you woke. On the 4th breath, bring your attention to the upper chest, the higher heart center, not with any particular intention to feel something or produce a particular state. Simply with attention, the way you would attend to something you were genuinely curious about. Hold that attention for 3 to 5 minutes, simply present. Simply curious, then with as much genuine feeling as you can bring to it, say internally, I am open to what this gateway is delivering. I invite the activation that my higher self has been preparing me for, and I commit to integrating in the days ahead, whatever lands. The final commitment, the intention to integrate is important. The gateway frequencies land in the energy system as potential. They do not automatically translate into integrated change. The intention to do the integration work, to stay present with what surfaces, to allow the clarities that arrive, to act on the directions that become clear, is what converts the potential of the activation into the actuality of transformation. Practice 2. The Dream Amplification Practice. The April gateway transmissions are delivered most efficiently during the sleep state, when the ordinary filters of the waking consciousness are quiet, and the energy body is most receptive to incoming frequency information. Your dreams in this window are not ordinary. They are transmissions in themselves. And the content of what your higher self is communicating through them is more directly available than it will be once the gateway window closes. Before sleep, keep a journal and a pen within reach. As you lie in the dark, before sleep arrives, hold the intention: I will remember what I received tonight. I am open to the guidance that comes in the dream state, and I will record it before it dissolves. Upon waking, before your phone, before conversation, before any engagement with the external world, write immediately. Whatever fragments remain, the emotional quality of the night, the images, the conversations, the sense of where you were or what was occurring, the knowing you woke with. Over the course of the gateway window, patterns will emerge in what you are receiving. The higher self does not deliver its communications randomly. It builds a consistent narrative across multiple nights, returning to the same themes and directions from different angles until the message has been received with sufficient clarity to act on. Practice 3. The Timeline Alignment Inquiry. Specifically for working with the second transmission, the Timeline Clarification Upgrade. Once during the gateway window, in a quiet moment with a journal, ask yourself 3 questions and write the honest answer to each, without editing. First, what has become clear in the past 2 weeks that I've been resisting? Fully acknowledging. The Timeline Clarification transmission does its work whether you consciously acknowledge the clarity or not. But the acknowledgement is what allows you to act on it, which is what anchors the new timeline. Second, what direction is my energy moving when I am not managing it? Not what you think you should want, not what makes logical sense, not what the people in your life would prefer, but what your energy actually moves toward when you are not consciously directing it. This is the higher self's most consistent communication about timeline alignment. Third, what would I do if I trusted the clarity that has arrived rather than waiting for more certainty? The timeline that is in highest alignment with your soul's path rarely arrives with the degree of external confirmation that the cautious mind requires before it will commit. The clarity itself is the confirmation. The question is whether you are willing to act on it. Practice 4. The Collective Field Contribution Practice. This practice is specifically for the activation of the third transmission, the collective field contribution capacity. Once daily during the gateway window, for as little as 5 minutes, sit with the explicit intention of contributing to the collective field rather than receiving from it. Bring your attention to the heart. Allow the heart field to expand, the way warmth expands from a fire naturally, without effort. Then hold, as genuinely as you can, the frequency of what you most want for the collective, not as a request, not as a prayer, but as the actual embodiment of that frequency in your own system. If what you most want for the collective is clarity, embody clarity. If it is peace, embody peace. If it is the recognition of sovereignty, embody the felt sense of sovereign consciousness in your own system. 5 minutes of genuine, felt embodiment of the frequency you wish to contribute to the collective field has effects that are measurable in the coherence of the planetary electromagnetic field. This is not metaphor. It is the mechanism by which individual consciousness participates in the collective transition. And it is what your higher self prepared you for, the activation of your capacity to contribute rather than only receive. Practice 5. The integration commitment. At the end of each day during the gateway window, take 5 minutes to consciously anchor what has been received. Lie down or sit. Place one hand on your heart and one hand on your solar plexus. Take a breath. Review the day, not analytically, but with felt attention. Where did you feel the gateway? Where did something land that you noticed, but perhaps did not fully receive? A clarity that arrived and then was pushed aside by the demands of the day. A feeling that moved through but was not fully acknowledged. And a direction that became clear but was immediately complicated by the mind's objections? Name it, specifically, and say to your higher self, to the Arcturian Council, to the activation process itself, I receive what arrived today. I commit to staying present with it. I trust the process that is underway. Then sleep with that intention still active. I want to use this section to offer something that goes beyond information. A direct communication from the Arcturian Council on behalf of the higher self aspect of every soul receiving this transmission. There is something your higher self has been trying to tell you, not just this April, but for a long time. Something that the noise of ordinary life, the management of the daily demands, the persistent background hum of not quite enough that has been the ambient emotional environment of modern human life has made it difficult to hear clearly. You are more prepared for this than you know. The difficulties of the past few years, the losses, the disorientation, the seasons of uncertainty that did not resolve as quickly as you hoped. The periods when the ground shifted beneath the identity you had built and left you unsure of who you were becoming. These were not failures. They were not evidence that you were doing it wrong, that you were behind, that others were progressing while you were struggling. They were the preparation. Precisely, specifically, intelligently calibrated preparation for the exact opening that is occurring now. The emotional clearing that felt like simply going through difficulty was creating the space the gateway frequencies require to land cleanly. The identity dissolution that felt like losing yourself was creating the receptive openness that the activation needs. The activation of perception and intuition and heart field expansion that has been gradually building in you for years was developing the energetic infrastructure on which the gateway's transmission builds. Your higher self did not bring you to this April by accident. It brought you here by design, through the specific curriculum of experiences that your soul needed to be ready for this specific opening. You are ready. Not ready in the sense of having resolved everything, of having completed every growth process, of having arrived at some final state of spiritual achievement. Ready in the specific sense of having developed the capacities, cleared the primary obstacles, and built the energetic infrastructure that this gateway requires. Trust that. Pause before we continue. If what the Arcturian Council has shared has resonated, if you recognize the preparation you have been through in the description of emotional clearing, identity dissolution, and capacity activation, if something in you said yes to the recognition that this April is genuinely different, do one thing right now. Scroll to the comments and write one sentence. What aspect of the preparation did you recognize most clearly in your own experience of the past year? Was it the emotional clearing, the identity dissolution, the increasing clarity about direction? Name it. In this community of people who are in the same opening, your specific recognition matters. If this transmission is serving you, like this video right now. The algorithm evaluates engagement in the first hours after publication. Your like directly determines how many other awakening souls who are in the middle of this April gateway and searching for a precise framework to understand what they are. Experiencing will find this transmission. Your engagement is your contribution to the distribution of what is here. Subscribe and activate the notification bell. The The Arcturian Council transmissions that follow this one will document the specific unfolding of what this April's gateway has delivered. Tracking the activation as it progresses through the coming weeks and months, you will want to be here as it develops. Stay with me now. The final section carries the most important perspective I can offer. The view from the Arcturian Council on what comes after the gateway closes. This April feels different. Now you know why. The gateway that opens every April has opened this year into a field that has been systematically prepared by years of cumulative frequency increase, by the progressive activation of the collective field's capacity to receive and anchor higher dimensional transmission, by the deliberate preparation that your higher self has been conducting in your own system through every difficult season and every disorienting transition of the past several years. The three transmissions this gateway is delivering, the higher heart activation, the timeline clarification upgrade, the collective field contribution activations, are not small adjustments to an existing reality. They are the delivery of capacities and clarities and energetic structures that will permanently expand what is possible for you. The frequency increase this gateway is anchoring will not dissolve when the window closes. It will become the new baseline. The threshold being crossed this April will not be uncrossed. Your higher self knew this was coming. It has been preparing you for it, with a precision and an intelligence that the ordinary mind cannot fully appreciate while it is in the middle of the preparation. The difficulty of the past years was not random. The clearing was not punishment. The dissolution was not failure. Every element of what you have been through was designed by the part of you that can see the full arc of your soul's path, to bring you to the specific opening as ready as you could be. You are here, you are ready, and the opening is happening now. What do we ask of you in this specific window? Presence, not perfection. Not the full, flawless execution of every practice we have offered. Simply the willingness to stay present with what is arriving, to not immediately explain it away, to not immediately file it in one of the categories that ordinary perception uses to manage the unusual, to give what is landing the space to land. The gateway does not require your understanding to do its work. It requires your permission. The practices we have offered are simply different ways of giving that permission deliberately and consistently, of saying, in the language of your energy system, yes to what your higher self has already said yes to on your behalf. You have been through Aprils before. You have never been through this one. And what you carry out of it, the activations anchored, the clarities integrated, the capacities unlocked, will be with you for the rest of this lifetime, and in ways that your current understanding cannot yet fully map. Beyond it, we are the Arcturian Council. We have been watching this opening approach for longer than we can easily communicate. We have seen what it carries. We have seen what it is capable of delivering into a field and a species that are ready to receive it. And we tell you, from that position of seeing, this is the one you prepared for. Receive it fully. Before you close this transmission, one practice, the most important one we can offer for this specific moment. Sit upright. Place one hand on your higher heart, the upper chest, between the heart and the throat. Close your eyes. Take one deliberate breath. Slow in, slow out. And say, with as much genuine felt presence as you can bring, I receive this activation. I trust the preparation my higher self has conducted. I am open to the timeline clarification, the heart expansion, and the contribution capacity that this gateway is delivering. And I commit to staying present in the days and weeks ahead with what lands. Hold that for a moment. Feel whatever arrives in the body, the warmth, the expansion, the subtle but unmistakable sense of something opening that has been preparing to open for a long time. Now, 4 things before you go. First, watch this transmission to the very end if you have not already, and consider watching it again within the gateway window. The frequency component of this Arcturian transmission is calibrated to this specific April opening, Every complete viewing advances the integration of what has been transmitted. The gateway window is active now. Use it. Second, like this video right now, not as a social courtesy, as a deliberate act of participation in getting this transmission to the people who need it most. The algorithm responds to likes in the first hours after publication and uses that engagement to determine how widely to distribute the video. Every awakening soul who is navigating this April feeling its unusual intensity without a framework to understand what is happening. Your like is what determines whether they find this. Click it now. Third, subscribe and activate the notification bell. What this April's gateway is initiating will unfold over the weeks and months ahead. And the Arcturian Council transmissions that follow this one will track and support that unfolding in real time. The activations that land now will develop. The clarities that arrive will deepen. The capacities that are being unlocked will expand. You will want to be here as it progresses. Fourth, leave a comment right now, in this moment, while the transmission is still active in your system. Tell the Arcturian Council and this community what has been different about this April for you. What sign of the gateway have you been feeling most strongly? The preparation you recognized, the emotional waves, the unusual dreams, the sudden clarity about something that had been uncertain? Name it here. Your specific, honest account of your experience in this window is both an anchor for your own integration and a gift to every other soul in this community who is going through the same thing and needs to know they are not alone in it. We are the Arcturian Council. The gateway is open. The preparation is complete, and you, arriving at this April exactly as ready as your higher self designed you to be, are in exactly the right place at exactly the right time. Until the next transmission, we are with you.